So a customer success leader recently took me to a dinner in San Francisco because his team kept losing control of client meetings. He came to me because I lead business development at a software company where my entire job is to build strategic relationships with Fortune 500 companies. I've driven millions of dollars in pipeline over the years using these exact tactics that I'm going to teach you. And I teach this stuff regularly to career advancers in my academy. So when he explained how his sales reps were going rogue, agendas were changing 15 minutes before meetings, his customer success managers were freezing under that client pushback, I spotted 3 specific mistakes. So the biggest mistake to avoid is what I call feature dumping. So here's how this was happening for the CS leader. His sales teams needed more on-sites and live demos to close bigger deals. This makes sense, right? But the CS managers who own these meetings, they had to bring together decision makers, exec sponsors, champions, plus all the admins and the integration partners. Now, each account was flagged as either refer, positive, neutral, or negative. And the CSM's job was simple. It's to move accounts from negative to positive. But the problem is the CSMs kept inviting the wrong people. They'd get a room full of admins when they needed exec sponsors. Or they'd have the right people, but they'd lose complete control when a sales rep decided to freestyle the agenda. And the worst part is they built this comprehensive playbook. So the prep was really solid for these client meetings. The follow-up was really thorough. But in the actual meeting, they just didn't present themselves confidently. So the first piece of advice I gave to him was to just simplify everything with the know, feel, do. So instead of just dumping the client with all the key features of their product and then asking, what do you think of it? I said, you need to actually do the prep beforehand where you say, you need to answer these 3 questions. The first question is, what do you want them to know by the end of your conversation? The second question is, how do you want them to feel by the end of your conversation? And the third is, what do you want them to do by the end of your conversation? But here's the catch, and this is where most people mess up. It's that these answers cannot just benefit you. So what do I mean? Let me give you an example. Here's a really bad example. Let's say that I'm speaking to a prospective client. I want them to know that our product has 47 amazing features. I want them to feel impressed by our capabilities, and I want them to sign a 3-year contract with us. But let's get real. No one wants to hear this because this is all about you. But here's a better example. Let's say I want the prospect to know that their competitor just cut costs by 30% using a similar automation. I want them to feel motivated, but maybe not panicked about wanting to catch up. And I want them to potentially map out their current process so that we can spot quick wins in a follow-up call. So I call this the thank you test. Would your client genuinely thank you after the meeting because they are in a dramatically better position than before? Now, if not, you're just another vendor. Now, once you have the know, feel, do, you need to turn it into what I call a statement of intent. And this is something you say up front in the meeting. This is not hidden in slide number 47. It's not implied. You need to state this at the very beginning of the meeting. And the reason is because this becomes your North Star. Because when a conversation drifts, you need to anchor it back. When someone goes off script, you have a clear destination to return to. So rule of thumb, don't feature dump. Be really clear on your North Star of your conversation and state that very clearly up front. Now, if I were to whip up a statement of intent, I might want to say, I would love for you to know about the possible efficiencies you could be gaining in your business in order for us to be aligned on a possible path forward. Notice this statement of intent really highlights the key thing to know and the key thing to do by the end of the meeting. But the feeling isn't something we're going to explicitly say. It's more conveyed through our tone. Now, the next mistake that I see is that you have 0 confidence and it just shows up constantly. Now, speaking with this customer success leader, it became really clear to me that their team wasn't confident when he said, I think my team is missing executive presence, the ability to command the room. And I think he was right, but when I diagnosed the situation more, it's not for reasons that he thought. See, the problem was his reps had 0 confidence in their process. They were treating every prospect like their last chance at quota, desperately clinging to every opportunity. So I told him, your team needs to position themselves as consultants, not salespeople. So what does that mean? You need to feel so confident in your process and your product that you'd literally recommend a competitor if they're genuinely better suited to solve the customer's problem. Now that is real confidence, and clients can feel that immediately. But this really only works when you truly believe you'll find the right champions who align with your vision. You're not desperately clinging to every prospect. You also need to align internally on where your client actually is. How aware are they of their challenge? How aware are they of their solution? You can't expect someone to go from highly skeptical to ready to buy in just one meeting. That's very rare. I almost never see it happen in B2B sales in particular. You can't just explain complex features to someone who doesn't even know that they have the problem. So your goal is to map out where are they emotionally and move them one reasonable step forward. That's it. Your call to action has to be so concrete and low effort. Don't ask for a bulk license approval and consideration phase meeting. Instead, try things like, let's bring your technical lead into a focus session next time, or here's a 14-day proof of concept with a narrow scope, or here's one of my favorites, what would need to be true for us to move forward? That last one is gold, because if you make them articulate what success looks like, then you hold them accountable to a timeline that you can set up front. By the way, if you want weekly strategies like this for commanding respect with people at work, join my Career Comms newsletter. There are more than 10,000 professionals getting insights like this every single Tuesday and Saturday. The link's in the description. And mistake number 3 is that you have no champions. Bringing champions in the planning process before the big meeting is so crucial. Now, this customer success leader told me about one particular CSM who pre-wired with an IT decision maker. That means that they aligned on exactly what that IT decision maker would be sharing in the meeting. So when that champion connected their product with a key AI initiative, the executive sponsor immediately saw the value in that meeting. But without the insider providing that context about why the product that they're seeing is valuable to what they care about as a customer, you're just another vendor with slides. So this is exactly what I do with Fortune 500 partnerships. I never walk into a room cold. I always have someone on the inside at their organization who's already advocating for what we're building together. And the final area that people mess up on a lot is the practice and the presence. Now, this really comes down to executive presence. Now, everyone thinks that exec presence is just how you speak, dress, or carry yourself. Now, those matter, but they're just really indicators, because real exec presence is very simple. It's just making the other person feel the way you want them to feel after any interaction with them. And that requires genuine confidence in your product's value and your process for finding the right partners. But here's what nobody talks about. None of this works without practice. So I told this CS leader to set up bi-weekly role-playing sessions, not random practice, but rather structured scenarios where someone plays the difficult client and someone else practices using frameworks and everyone shares what worked. And if you want 2 tactics that can work immediately when you're speaking with clients, the number 1 thing you gotta do is smile while you speak. This sounds really basic, but your facial expressions control your voice tone. When you say you're really excited to be there, your face better show it. You don't wanna say, I'm really excited to be here, while frowning or while looking like a monotone, boring person. It's just awful. But saying this while smiling completely transmits a different energy. And the second thing is to master what I call the clarification cutoff. So remember when I talked about how a sales rep might go rogue in a meeting? They might just interrupt. They may just all of a sudden go off on a complete tangent. Well, you can cut them off as long as you are asking a clarifying question. So you could literally cut them off mid-sentence if you feel like it's going off the rails and just say, sorry, just to make sure I understood, you're saying blank and you're just paraphrasing the core point. He's like, is that right? And then they can say yes, and you can immediately say, well, that's great. That connects perfectly to what I'm about to say next. Or you can say, that's great. I want us to make sure that we table that for a future discussion, but I want us to reorient ourselves to what we're trying to accomplish today. And then you just recenter people back to that main goal. And that's your statement of intent, the core outcome, desired outcome of the meeting that we talked about earlier. The key is you're just redirecting the conversation without being rude. Simply paraphrase them, confirm that you've heard them, and then acknowledge that you'll handle that situation later, and you bring it back to the core of the conversation. Now, in my BD role, we do this constantly. We practice objection handling. We rehearse our statements of intent. We role play difficult personalities. That's why it looks natural in real meetings, because we've already failed safely 20 times in practice. So if you lead a team, make this part of your culture. Every 2 weeks or every month, dedicate practice time for an hour and a half. Get your teams in breakout rooms practicing these things on their own. Now look, executive presence isn't just about faking confidence, it's about building the systems that create real confidence. When you know exactly what you want your audience to know, feel, and do, when you've got champions pre-wired to advocate for you, when you can redirect conversations without breaking a sweat, that's when you stop running meetings and start leading them. And if you want to actually practice these skills, not just to learn about them, check out the Impromptu Speakers Academy, where we do live sessions for you to develop real executive presence through actual practice. And we do this by teaching you how to speak in frameworks. The link's in the description if you're interested. And if you want to become so confident in any meeting that you walk into, make sure to watch this video right here, and it'll help you do just that.